All right, so in the previous video, I really told you about the product sourcing flow, which if we do a very fast recap, you need to essentially obviously do product research. Everyone has to do product research, validate the product. Then what I really focused on the previous video is how to determine if a product is going to be a successful positive ROAS product. And that was in the Excel DD sheet that I went through in quite a bit of detail. So take a look if you want to find out how I find successful products, how I then actually try to quantify that process and make it as systematic as possible. This then again is really there to boil down to maybe 3, 4, 5, again, depending how aggressive you want to be, products that you're then much more confident after having done this due diligence with the Excel. You obviously prioritize them, then you run the test, and then you adjust, right? And you learn from your first tests, obviously, and any data that you gather, and hopefully cycle it back through to then become better and better at finding products that will be profitable for you, and then also obviously kind of add value to your existing stores or any new stores that you might create. So in this video, I want to actually focus a bit more on the how and actually get into how you actually run the test. I think that's the hardest part. A lot of people, I think, struggle to run a lot of tests simultaneously and get valuable data that they can really utilize and max out on. Like sure, everyone like runs a test here and there, right? But like the point is, can you really test 6 products efficiently all at the same time? And the answer is yes. But now I want to finally get to how do you run the test, right? I think this is where, as I mentioned, a lot of people struggle with being super efficient with running a bunch of products simultaneously. It's possible, right? Obviously, everyone has their own way to do it, and I'll just show you the way I think about it, which I think is helpful for me. I use Asana. Again, any timeline kind of tool works great for this. I think it's great because I think the issue with testing products is that you have to like tick off a lot of small things. Again, going back to the F1 pit stop, where you need the 4 tires, you need the 6 pillars as I discussed, right? You need CRM, you need the product page, right? You need content, you need your first content, you need to figure out logistics, you need to figure out your marketing, right? You also need to do a test order. And within that, there's again many subset of things you need to tick off, which we'll go through in 1 second. And there's dependencies, right? That's the other thing. So you cannot do the test order before you don't complete those 5 pillars, right? And you can't run the test before you don't do the test order. You can't get statistically significant results before you don't run the test, right? And you need the master specs of the product, of the sample. You need a sample and the master specs of the product for you to even start this process. Actually, you don't. There's actually, I have a bunch of different versions. So there is a version where you don't even need a sample, assuming you can create content without even having a sample. But for most cases, it's good to just order just one sample to your house. And I think that will be quite useful to you in any case, right? So let's just go down this timeline because I think it'll be very useful. And you see it's like blocking. So I think what's cool with this timeline is like, if I move this like here, it automatically moves everything else with it, right? In terms of timeline, right? And you can obviously work in terms of if you're not alone, if you have a team working with you, right, you can obviously divide all those things in the way that you think is most efficient, right? So I think step number 1, right, before you start running a test, and this is for one product, right? So again, we're going to run in batches, and we're going to get into that, but this is for one product, so this is really like the fundamental building block, I think, of how to run the test on Shopify for a new e-commerce product that you've identified is going to be potentially a interesting product for you to test and build a business around. So you obviously need a sample and you need the master specs. I mean, here are the subtasks. There's going to be subtasks everywhere. Sample arrived in good condition and working, right? So you can tick it off, right? Okay. So you just do that. And then you need a product page. Okay, product page. Obviously on Shopify, there's so many videos on that, so I'm not gonna go into that. Just create a product page. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. You need product images. You need a description. You need a product specific FAQ, which might be a separate page. It might be also on your product page. You need some basic apps. I will have a separate video on apps for sure. And you need a price and a compare price added and double checked. And you need reviews, right? A few basic reviews. Again, or at least a review app. If you don't have any reviews, or again, maybe you you had a different store, you have reviews, maybe you're actually already selling this product on Amazon, you can use those reviews. But at least have an app where people can leave reviews. And obviously when people start buying the product, you're also going to start eventually getting your first reviews, right? And anyway, that's also a whole separate topic. But I think that if you check off those 3 things, then your product page will be in good shape. By the way, so what I forgot to mention is that this is really, I'm going to do a separate video on exactly this timeline if you want to create a completely new Shopify store from scratch, right? So this actually assumes that you already have a existing Shopify store and you're just testing a new product within that store, right? And so you just need to create a new product page. You don't need to create an entire website, but we will go into that as well separately. But for now, assume that you already have a Shopify store. It might not be making any sales, but at least you have a page, you have a URL, all those things, right? So you have a website, and you just want to test a new product. Okay, then with CRM, plug in email, plug in social media, and anticipate key Q&A for the product, right? Also goes without saying. So obviously there should be an email connected. So there should be a contact us page, very basic. There should, at the very least, be an email where customers can write you. Again, the Q&A links to the product page, but actually write the FAQ in the product page, anticipating what people might ask, because that's also the Q&A that your agent, you can direct them to the FAQ page, and that'll already help them answer the most basic questions, right? And again, a lot of the questions are super repetitive, like where's my product and where's the tracking code, and I ordered this, but I got that, and so the usual stuff. And anyway, I think you can anticipate a lot of that ahead of time in some sort of social media, right? So there's also, everything ties in together very nicely, but obviously you'll need whatever you want to test, right? I mean, an Instagram account and a TikTok account for the page, or for Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok page, to at least start testing either organically or paid. And then you can tick all those things off once you have those. Okay, content. The way I like doing it, and again here, you can essentially come up with your own version. I mean, the whole point is you come up with your own version here, right? Is you essentially take images of the sample yourself, you take videos of the sample, right? And then what I actually like doing when I test is I look at some competitor videos in a similar niche for inspiration, and I try to create also something along the lines of that. So again, you don't copy the creative, but you see what's going on in the market. And I really use this as a benchmark, right? So I just want to know that if I create a video, like a very, almost like a generic video of what the competition is doing, that'll just be my benchmark, right? And obviously I'll want to beat that benchmark with my own creatives that I create myself, right? Or my team creates. But I do want the benchmark to just know where we are. Because again, if we're creating creatives and they're just way worse than the benchmark, then it means that we're doing something wrong, right? But if we're doing creatives and they're doing really well, but the benchmark is doing horribly wrong, then that is also valuable data for you to understand. And then, online mashup content. Yeah, again, create some first pieces of content, right? With sample, with potentially, again, you can obviously use free images on like websites where obviously there's a bunch of websites that provide that, like stock images. That's what I was trying to find that word. So stock images, stock videos, obviously you can use and start creating content. Okay, for logistics, again, if you're testing realistically, right, you're going to start dropshipping for the initial test. If it's literally a new product that you've never sold before, you want to make sure that at least you can dropship. So there should be some dropshipping integration with the page. Again, that could be the classic Oberlo integration if you want to be super basic, I guess. Or if you do know the supplier already, then obviously you can already have the integration with the supplier, like a ERP connected to the back end of your Shopify. Again, don't go too crazy here because it is a test, so it's fine. If you just have a basic integration where you'll be able to fulfill more like the first orders, then that's fine. And again, those integrations, they really don't take long. And finally, the marketing prep. That's probably pretty important. What I wrote here is we will always have a minimum of 2 channels for a test. And again, this is just the way I think about it, but there's no right or wrong. There is a right or wrong, I think, with what we'll get into in terms of, you need to gather a certain amount of data to have statistically significant results that you can actually make a solid conclusion on. And you also want to, like, why I wrote 2 channels, right, is again, you might only test Facebook, but Facebook might just, it might actually be an issue that the product wasn't supposed to work well on Facebook, but it works great on TikTok, right? I mean, we're seeing a lot of this now, but it could still be vice versa, right? You just don't know. And with Facebook, I obviously always include Instagram under that. But again, this is the pull versus push marketing. You need to kind of also get a sense of where's your product going to fit better, right? Like obviously Google search is the classic thing to do if you think people are really going to search for your product, versus you push content on Facebook and TikTok and wherever to essentially really excite people about this product, even though they weren't searching for it in the first place. And that way, if you test 2 things, right, like for example, TikTok and Google, or Facebook or TikTok, Facebook and TikTok, you're able to diversify at least 2 channels. Ideally, you become good enough where you can even run 3 or more channels simultaneously, and then you really know if the test has done well. Email, again, because we're talking about an existing store in this example, you already have an email list if you have an existing store in that niche, and you can sell, and you can essentially write an email to all your existing customers asking if they like the new product in this niche, right? That's actually a free way to test your product. It's obviously limited in terms of reach because it's limited to the amount of email subscribers that you have, but it is a very nice way to send out a quick email campaign to everyone, and especially if the product is in the same niche, you can just be like, hey guys, do you like this product? It's a new product that we've just launched, obviously in an email campaign format. And that also is super valuable in terms of customer feedback. Again, tying it back to this funnel, which I think will always be coming back to, but customer feedback, right? So if you already have a customer email list of your store, then asking them what they think about the new product in that niche, it's literally for free. I mean, not because we use Klaviyo, for example, so it's not completely for free, but it's definitely the cheapest. And obviously, like I just put paid channels here, but of course, the point is you can adapt this in any shape or form, right? And I think it's really important to think about this because you can do organic, right? I mean, you can start posting organically on TikTok, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on Snapchat, I mean, wherever. You have affiliate, right? You have influencer marketing. Obviously, you have, you have SEO, but that's more of the longer game, right? If you really want to test, I think those are the main ways you can do that, right? So obviously, one of the main platforms, either paid or organic, and then a few of the other things that I just mentioned. So decide. I think it's important that you decide upfront before you run the test. Okay, it's like I'll do those 2 things. I'll pull through, and then I'll have my results. Then do a test order. Why doing a test order? Because you'd be surprised. You're doing all those things, right? Again, you want to make sure that none of the wheels are flying off of all your pillars, right? Your team or yourself, right? You put on all the wheels, but you need to do a test order to essentially just like make sure everything is fine. And you'd be surprised. I mean, this is really where you can make sure, first of all, that you can, just go through the checkout page once, right? The add to cart page, the checkout page, make sure everything looks fine. You have the logo, the product page looks fine, everything there's no issues because you forgot, for example, classic thing, you forgot to put in your shipping settings, right? So that sometimes, this happens to some people, they just forget to put their shipping settings, and then you can't even select the United States, for example, right, as an option, and then no one can make a purchase, right? So obviously just do that, send the product to either to yourself or to a friend or to an influencer or to an affiliate or to someone you want feedback from. Again, I would really just do one proper test order where you also, again, actually send it to a real address and test out the fulfillment processing. Do it just once. It's really not that expensive, especially if you're dropshipping. Just dropship it, go through the entire process of actually it being fulfilled, you actually paying the supplier actually sending it, the tracking code being applied to the product page. All those things you think are happening in the background, and they are. And if it's automated, you forget about them. But again, just every time you're launching a new product, just do one test order to make sure that everything's actually set up the way it should be. Do a test CRM ticket. Again, I'm a bit like thorough here, but it's better to present, I guess, the thorough option, and you can decide to leave out some stuff if you want to, have a bit of a faster test. But anyway, I would send it again. Pretend to be a customer, send at least one email, make sure all of that works, the integration works. Press on the, on the social media icons so that you get redirected to the right page. All those things are not that difficult. You just need to tick them off, right? read through, spell and sense check. I mean, there's a lot of product pages that are just pretty sloppy, and a quick sense check does the trick, or spell check. All right. And regarding the timeline, I'll actually touch on this in a second. Should I touch on it now? I actually have a version where, so here those are actually the days, right? And and this is the one thing I forgot to mention. So, but this is like a placeholder for this is just a random example. You obviously you can adjust all of this to like anything you want, right? And obviously adjust the timeline. Like here, I'm leaving 3 days to get all of those things done, right? I actually think this is way too much. So like I actually have a version here where I do the exact same timeline intraday, and you complete the entire thing up until the test order in under 2 hours. Now, that actually, I mean, that's assuming, again, if you have a team working with you, if you have a co-founder, or if you're doing everything by yourself, or if you have freelancers. Again, it just really depends. I think if you become good at this and you really just like tick off like the boxes, then it should be like an F1 pit stop, right? You get things done very fast. And if it becomes routine, you can essentially do the tests very quickly. Now, the one thing where you just need to give it a bit of time is really the marketing test. So here, the marketing test, before we actually launch it, the final thing before the actual marketing launch is ticking off those final points. And I think those are also important to just at least go through mentally at the very minimum and make a decision for yourself, right? Because I'm telling you, if you don't, you're going to start running the test and you're going to like change your mind in the middle, and it's just going to be shit because you're not going to like finish the test fully, and it's just not going to be great. So what you need is, again, did you decide on at least 2 channels to test? And again, like I actually think, okay, which 2 channels would fit best with this product, right? And then just go for it. Prepare timeline and budget. Again, if you're actually doing paid ads, right? This is again geared really towards paid ads. If you're doing organic, then this doesn't really apply. Just start posting on TikTok and on Facebook and everywhere actually. And I'll do a separate video. Like we use a tool called Loomly, where we can post immediately on like all of our 7 channels for the store at the same time, right? So if we have like one post, we can post on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Snapchat, on TikTok, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and everything else under the sun, right? And it kind of just, I mean, there's a lot of tools like that. Anyway, so that's organic. But if you're doing paid, right, then you want to really scale. Like this paid is obviously the cost and benefit. Again, separate video, goddammit. But it's obviously like, do you want to scale faster and but like take more financial risk, or do you want to not scale as fast and go the organic route and take way less financial risk, but then obviously put in more time and effort into the process? With paid, you need a timeline and budget, right? I actually think 3 to 4 days is good to launch some campaigns. For a minimum 3-4 campaigns, 3-4 days. Again, there's like a lot of videos on that. I honestly think that 3-4 days is enough for you to understand if the product is a high ROAS product or not. Don't be too scared in terms of like, oh yeah, but because it was only Tuesday to Friday, we didn't even hit the weekend or something, and that's why it didn't work. Honestly, the product needs to be so good that even if you choose the like worst 3 or 4 days of the week, and again, that shouldn't even make such a big difference. Even there, it needs to outperform, right? I mean, you're really looking for a winner here. So don't forget this Excel, right? You're looking for a winner. You're looking for a product making at least 3 ROAS, ideally about 5 ROAS, right? In like the off season, right? Like in like the shittiest of times, it makes a 5 ROAS, right? That's what you're looking for. That's what you can find. So propose geographical split. I mean, this should be easy. Just choose a country to focus on. It might be multiple countries if you have a very specific reason. Like sometimes Australia is a very interesting market when compared to the US, just in terms of saturation. Sometimes the UK and the US are quite different. Sometimes even Canada and the US are different, right? But usually, again, and it might be your local country, Spain, France, whatever, Germany, or any other country for that matter, where e-commerce is a thing. So obviously, make a decision. Again, with a limited budget, I would only focus on one country. Prepare stop loss. I discussed this in this beautiful chart here. So again, if you spent 1K and the test is going absolutely horrendously, you're just not making any progress, then I would have some sort of stop loss, but again, up to you. RevealBot rules. So we use RevealBot to automate our marketing campaigns. I have a separate video on that. I'll just leave this out for the test, to be honest, but you can automate the marketing rules with RevealBot, meaning that you have a Facebook campaign that you launch for this test, and then if it does well, so like you shut it down automatically. If it's not profitable after 3 days, you shut it down. So like this algorithm, RevealBot, is a tool that just shuts down all your you just set the rules, right? You just say if ROAS is below 3, then kill it, and spend is after above 200 per campaign or whatever it might be, then just kill it or scale it, right? So then you have one campaign that does already really well, and you can already scale right off the bat. Anyway, once you tick off all those things, you actually run your test. So for each, I just here included Facebook, Google, email, and TikTok. Again, this is not exhaustive. There are many other channels you can play around with. But like for Facebook, and I'll just do Facebook because again, this also, I don't want to don't talk too long about this because I think importantly you get the overall picture, right? With Facebook, and this applies also, and other reasons, like this applies to all channels, right? I also just like running tests with 3 or more creatives, right? I don't want to put all my eggs into the basket of just having one creative, right? Have at least 3 creatives. Again, many other videos on that. I think you don't need to go too crazy. If you test with 3, 4, 5 creatives that you think are your best shot, then it will give you some data to work with. Most importantly is reach statistical significance, right? I actually have slides on that too. But I'm not going to do them now. The point is that you need enough data, which is statistically significant, right? And you just Google statistical significance. Is actually like the calculators online in terms of how much traffic you need on a page, given a certain conversion rate assumption, for you to be statistically significant, to kind of test a hypothesis. If you're not just lucky because for some reason the first 100 people who visit your website disproportionately bought your product for whatever reason, or again, a classic example, you have one guy out of 100 who just went completely bonkers and bought like your product like 20 times. Extreme example, this wouldn't happen. And then you have like a super high ROAS, right? But it's only one guy who bought, and that if you would continue running the marketing campaign, then you'll never see this guy again because he was such an outlier, right? So I think those are like relatively common sense things, but you need statistical significance and have enough traffic, and then you have the results. Now, if you do that for the 2 or more campaigns, 2 or more channels and all different campaigns and enough creatives, then finally you have the statistically significant result. And then there's next steps. Next steps is obviously what you do with that. I think what you should think about is coming up with a system like this for yourself. How can you be super efficient with running tests? Because then what's exciting is that you can essentially overlay this with multiple tests on top of each other, start running tests on top of each other, become really good at executing on this. And it's just, putting in the reps and getting the statistically significant results. Start plotting out this diagram, right, where you can see on a batch of 20 what your distribution is. And with that, start learning and improving this funnel ultimately. Hey, before you bounce, consider subscribing to our channel, but only if you've actually enjoyed the video and found at least a few valuable things for your Shopify store. Also, check out our free Shopify app, Trackidex. We have a link in the description below. We're developing new features literally every day, and we're also excited to actually hear your feedback on some of the next features we should develop. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.